The former CBN governor have actually been slammed with new charges of using 80.9 billion naira to print over 684.5 million naira. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies, where we keep you updated with the stories that are dropping from the Nigerian newspaper. I am Seda Elishadashan, and I'll doing the program alongside Rachel Tansy. Good morning.
Morning, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And to our viewers and also our followers, remember you can follow us live via Facebook, YouTube. Drop your comment, your views, and also your recommendation on any of the story that is of interest to you this morning. And we would love to start with the First News newspaper.
On First News newspaper, Doyin Okupe is saying Peter Obi never believed in Labour Party ideology. PDP crisis deepens as court bars NWC from tampering with pro-Wike caretaker list. CBN introduces direct dollar sales to BDCs at 1,021 naira to a dollar to stabilize currency market. Fubara reshuffles cabinet over Rivers crisis. Bayelsa Governor Paul appeal court imposes fine on Silva for filing a time-wasting appeal. Again, Dangote slashes diesel aviation fuel prices to 940 naira and then 918 naira. Ex-Imo Governor Ihodio Ha resigns from PDP. The big story on the paper revealed how Emefiele printed 684.5 million naira notes with 18.9 billion naira. This is coming from EFCC, slams ex-CBN governor with fresh 4-count charge to arraign him April 30th in Abuja. Again, graft agency alleges, I take that right again, anti-graft agency alleges Emefiele violated the law with intent to harm public while implementing Naira swap policy. I'll resign if we don't arrest and prosecute Yahya Bello, EFCC boss vows. Reveals ex-Kogi governor took $720,000 from state coffers to pay his child's school fees. Recounts how Yahya Bello insisted he should be interrogated in his village. Kogi Assembly blasts EFCC, urges agency to obey court order. Yahya Bello is not appearing in court, a statement from his lawyer. Kano government behind my Africa Magic suspension, Ganduje alleges, as APC state chairman passed confidence vote in him, says coup to sack him has failed. AFCC arrest ex-aviation minister Heidi Sireka over 8 billion naira fraud linked to Nigeria Air Project, freezes over 300 illegal forex trading accounts. And the last story on the paper, Tinubu arrived Netherlands for 3-day official visits. We have picture story where we can see Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun and his deputy and other stakeholders with commissioners of the state, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
A New Telegraph newspaper, federal government unveils plan to attract $10 billion investment into oil and gas sector, recovers 57 billion naira from 10 ministries and agencies. Detail found on the front page and in the paper. Naira weakens further to 1,300 to a dollar on the official market. And we have Tinubu appoint Consul General charge the affair for 13 countries. And on importation, federal government initiate digital platform to enhance duty exemption. Again, Dangote reduces diesel and aviation fuel prices to 940 naira and then 980 naira. More detail in the paper. And we have day journalist slaps senior police officer and survive. More detail on page 14. And coming from Imo State, Idioha Board of Trustee member, ex-reps member, local government party chairman, PDP. In gall of resignation, ex-governor says party failed to embark on internal reform, enforce its own rules, and then offer credible opposition. You can find detail of that on page 4. DGNCAA, how Dana aircraft nose will collapse, with the writer here saying the NCAA and then the NSIP open probe. Alleged fraud, Bello willing to appear in court fears arrest. Lawyer tells court, I take that, alleged fraud. Bello willing to appear in court fears arrest. This is the lawyer telling the court. And we have Harvard and 13 foreign universities offer Nigerian teenager $3.5 million scholarship. More detail found on page 6. Alleged 8 billion naira Nigerian air fraud. EFCC arrests the ex-aviation minister Sirika. Contract alleged carried out in convenience with his younger brother through the latter's company. More detail found from a source. You can find detail of that on page 3. And on the APC, we won't allow Ganduji to be removed like Oshomole. Forum chairman are saying that process of my removal akin to African magic coming from the Kanu ex-governor. And we have a writer down here that says study link hypertension to fibroid development. So it's important that we all read that study on page 31, and that's all the New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Matrix, the big story, 80.2 billion naira fraud, fresh messy details emerge. The writer said EFCC reveals how Bello moved $720,000 from state coffers to pay child school fees. Stop harassing me, respect rule of law, Bello tells EFCC from hiding. Olukayode vows to resign if Bello is not persecuted. If Bello has a case to answer, it should be done within rule of law. This is coming from Kogi State House Assembly. You can find details on page 2. Nigeria launches new fiscal incentives to attract $10 billion investment in oil and gas sector. Five-star Arsenal Tom Chelsea to go 3 points clear at EPL Summit. You can find details on page 16. HMFLA printed 684.5 million naira new notes with 18.9 billion naira coming from the EFCC anti-graft agency to arraign ex-CBN governor on fresh charges. Tinubu's policies programs a commitment to uplift Nigerians out of poverty coming from Vice President Shetima. Okupe drops bombshell, says Labour Party only special purpose vehicle for OB. You can find details on page 8. Jimo Ibrahim breaks silence, calls for cancellation of Ondo APC primary. CBN to sell $10,000 to eligible BDCs at 1,021 naira to $1. You can find details on page 11. EFCC grills ex-aviation minister Sirika over 8 billion naira Nigeria air fraud. Details can be found on page 9. And we have a story concerning a sexual assault. Baba Jessa appeals High Court conviction. Details can be found on page 16. We have a picture story where we can see Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance, and it's towards $10 billion oil and gas investment. And that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Those criticizing the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road ignorant of the project funding coming from Umahi. You can find detail on page 28. And the big story here says alleged 8 billion naira money laundering. EFCC grills and detain Buhari's aviation minister Sirika. Detail found on page 5. 45% Nigerians have no access to electricity coming from the Vice President Shetima. And we have Wabote 30 billion naira budget pardoning allegation baseless. You can find detail of why that is being said so. And on Edu 2024, let's make our campaign issue based. This is coming from Agodalu. Urges cool contestant. You can find detail of that on page 27. Banks lost 8 billion naira to Yahoo boys coming from the EFCC chairman. Also, we have Dangote again slashes the diesel jet A1 fuel price further to 940 naira and 980 naira per litre. Alleged bully in Abuja British school shot as minister and police begin investigation. You can find more detail of that on page 5. And before we continue further, I'd like to talk a little about the bullying. I mean, it was on social media yesterday. I watched the video even when the minister visited the school. And I also saw the video because it was circulating everywhere, where we saw a fellow female student bullying. And what broke my heart, Rachel, was the fact that we were classmates. So this is not about a senior and a junior in school where we have it most times in boarding school. But this was her fellow classmate, and she slapped her, and then recorded it personally so that you could actually shame her again. Now, we're seeing that the school has been shut for 3 days because they need to investigate what gave room to such things. And then we've had cases. I mean, you remember we went through the issue of Sylvester just last week, where we saw it was about negligence coming from the parents and also coming from the doctors and even the school. We can say the school also have. And these are cases we've been seeing in all of these very high elite schools, where we begin to see students are being bullied. And you wonder what really is happening in school where we're supposed to have hostel parents, if it is a boarding school, where we're supposed to have matrons and patrons, where we're supposed to have everything that's supposed to protect the student. I mean, even in schools that it's not as expensive as such schools, we've seen that with the issue of bullying has gone drastically low. But I'm surprised that it's beginning to surface its ugly heads again. And I just hope that after these 3 days, we will not just concentrate on just the school, but let's look at other schools that are going through the same, because a number of kids and wards are going through bullying, and because it has not been brought to the surface and we're seeing that this has been pushed under the carpet, it's either you're influential and then no interrogation, nothing whatsoever has been done about it. So I'm happy that the ministry has taken it upon themselves to check such schools. We've had cases where we see schools that have not even been registered by the Ministry of Education, and a number of things are happening. I think was it last year, sorry, Rachel, we saw where a student impregnated, was it a teacher? Some things that are not supposed to be heard of.
Yes.
You hear them and you wonder what really is happening. How did the school come to be registered? How is it even functioning? So I'm hoping that with little things like this that are coming, let us see more investigation, more thorough probe being done about things, so that we don't keep going through things that we expected to have, past them by now, but then we're seeing things like this happen. Let us make the school an environment that regardless of what background you are coming from, you can actually go there and study without being treated anyhow by any other person who feels that he's more opportune to come from a more influential home than the other.
Bullying in schools is a global issue. It's not only in Nigerian schools. It's in every school. Wherever there is a school, there's bullying. Be it the primary school, a tertiary level, we don't know, but there is bullying even in tertiary institutions, and then even in secondary school. It's everywhere. It's all around the world. However, it is not a problem to shut down a school. I know drastic measures are supposed to be taken, but shutting down a school over bullying is uncalled for. It's not an activity that warrants the stopping of educational activities from going on 3 days out of school. There's no need for that. In fact, this video is already the evidence to either suspend or expel the student. It's just the evidence that this happened, and then we move. I don't think there's a need for 3 days closure of the school to stop educational activities from happening. I wish, Sele, that we know how to handle situations in this country, but we don't know. We are still very backward and lagging when it comes to where we deal with certain things. You will see that the kind of intensity that a real problem, that a bigger problem is supposed to get, is not getting. And then a problem that we already know, okay, this is the way forward, this is the proof. You bullied this, your fellow student, you were stupid enough to record it. This is it. First of all, are you supposed to have a phone? And then the child is being penalized. She's being used as an example. Are you supposed to have phones during school hours, even if it's body school or elite school or the who is who school? Are you supposed to have phones during school hours and doing things like bullying one another, recording it, putting it out there? You expel the student, or be it suspension, whatever is your school rule and all of that, and make it an example out there. Let the minister can we put channels out there and say, if you are in a school that bullying is at its peak, and you know that the school government, because I know in secondary school, bullying is almost, I mean, in government secondary schools, even in private schools, in private school, it comes to the surface because the children do have parents that will speak for them.
They do
but when it comes to government school, it goes. But what are you doing, the minister? It's not just about shutting down the school. Are you now creating channel for any student that knows I am in an environment that is toxic and I'm being bullied? Do you create channels to say, okay, you know what, my parents might not have a voice, but there's a channel that my voice could be heard and these students be made to answer and all of that. So I just hope that more than just the minister showing up, more than just shutting down the school for 3 days, which I believe is unnecessary. It's good to take whatever measures to see that bullying doesn't take place, but shutting down the school is not, is 3 days of no activities going on. Is, by the way, this child has foolishly gave proof to show that she's a bully, and then you expel or suspension, because this one, you're even holding a phone, you're recording it, you're putting it out there. So it's not just bullying, it's every other offense attached to it, because now you put it on the internet, you're trying to shame that person, which there's already a law for what you have done concerning putting it on the internet and all of that. So you put all of these things in place, and then just make sure it doesn't happen again or repeat itself, and then measures are being put in place to see that, you know what, bullying is not being done. Let's also teach other students to stand up for one another, because I believe others were watching and didn't do anything about it. So they didn't do anything about it. So let's teach others how to stand up for one another. It doesn't matter who the other person is, because it's always all about authority. It's always all about who is a student that is being, you know, popular. The status quo is higher among other students and all of that rubbish in our secondary schools and any other institution. It doesn't matter. Teach others to stand up for those who are being bullied, because there's always the type of students that get bullied. So what about you? Why are you not speaking up for the others? These are all the things that we should put in place in our schools.
You know, Rachel, if you're going to ask me personally, I would have said that I'm not encouraging fight, but I mean, I'm looking forward to a student that stand up for yourself.
For yourself.
As well. Well, let's just see what the ministry will come out of the investigation. Let's see what will come out of it.
Yes.
Now, still on Daily Sun newspaper, here we have ex-Kogi governor calls EFCC illegal as court orders commission to serve charges against him on his lawyer. The writer here say how we invited him, but he ignored it, coming from the anti-graft agency. Judge fixed May 10 for ruling and on application to set aside arrest warrant. And then I am willing to appear in court, but afraid of arrest, coming from Beldo. And Rachel, I mean, I know we spoke about this story from last week, but I don't like the turn or the twist the story is taking. We've seen that Kogi Assembly are coming out to say that no, their governor or their former governor cannot be arrested. And we've had this conversation already where we said if only you honor the invitation. You are saying that no invitation was given to you. The agency is saying we gave you an invitation, you ignore it. In fact, there was a video that was circulating online where we saw him during his workout song. He was singing and then kind of, you know, having like he was training, like he was in a boxing ring and all of that. And then a number of people were just making jokes out of it that maybe he's preparing to fight the EFCC and all of that. But that's on a lighter note. But then what am I trying to say here? Yes, I know that we need to know what the rule of law is, because if the Kogi Assembly is saying the rule of law, let's go back. What is the rule of law in the first place, Rachel? The rule of law says that nobody is above the law, whether as an agency, as a government, or regardless of what. You have to honor the law. I've said this and I'll keep repeating it. We have heard the fact that, well, the law is king. And that is to say that every other person must. It's a must, Rachel. M-U-S-T, must answer to the law, regardless of who you are. I know that as a governor, as a president, you have immunity protecting you for a period of time. But excuse me, you are an ex-governor. Of course, their immunity is there a little, but that does not stop you from being answerable to the law. You are being invited.
You are, yeah.
Simple question, and here their evidence. Rachel, what beats my heart is the amount of money he withdrew from the government to pay for your child's school fees in advance. So you knew that your tenure was over, and you used the government money to pay for your child's school fees. What effrontery gave you the right to do that? You could go talk to other citizens of Kogi State. Of course, we'll have a number of them coming out in disguise saying that they're civil society. But let's go down to the rural areas. Let's go down to places that there are no good roads, Rachel. You've gone to Kogi State before. You know that there are some communities that the roads are bad. Let's not even talk about the potholes that when it's flooding, we know how our tanks are stuck there.
Yeah.
Because that is the only route they can get over here. Let's not talk about that. So I am not here coming to say that, I'm against him. No. I can talk about any other person in the same light. When you do good, we applaud you. I said it, the media, we are the fourth arms of government, whether the government wants to accept it or not, because we let the people know what is happening. So I am believing the fact that if you have nothing to hide, we saw where the Attorney General last week was telling him that let nobody obstruct. If you are found obstructing the law, you will be fined for 5 years imprisonment and all of that. Just go and answer. You say you want to go to court, but you're afraid of arrest. Why are you afraid of arrest? So these are questions that Nigerians need. So this is just becoming more, we're just prolonging the whole thing. This is a simple thing. You are being invited, you go, you answer. And if you have nothing, you come back home. If there are other things, you also bring your own evidence. If the EFCC say this is the evidence we have, you also go with your own evidence. This is not it. So I really do not know why we keep having back and forth. It seems as if certain people are untouchable and other people can be touched. So let us see how this whole thing will go. But I just hope that Bello should just, honor the invitation. We're going to hear that by May 10th. So in the next 2-3 weeks, we should know where this whole thing is going. But I'm hoping to see that, let's just try to be transparent in everything we do. Let's be accountable. You just have to answer. How much did you come with before you became the governor? How much are you living with? These are all the things that the EFCC, that's their work, and they're just trying to do their work. So I hope that they will not be obstructed and they will be able to get their answers eventually.
Before I move to what I want to say regarding this saga that is beginning to unfold about Yahaya Bello, while talking, you made mention of, as being a governor, there's certain immunity. Sele, is even corruption that is making our system not to probe people while in office. There's no law that says as a governor, if you are given certain money and you did something, we are not supposed to ask you. It's corruption that is making the immunity look like you can steal and nobody will ask you anything. That's even, by the way, because it's corruption. How would you sit down and see a governor take out $720,000 US dollar from the state account, paying his child's school fees, for example, and nobody says anything because he's the governor? It's corruption. It's not immunity, Sele. It's corruption. This is what immunity gives you access to certain things. As the governor, your immunity will first give you access to the state scholarship, for example, for your student. Your immunity will give you access to the president when others don't. Your immunity, when you go to another country, you get certain privileges, you get certain treatment because of immunity. Immunity is all for the right things, giving you access to certain things that a common man will not, giving you protection, your aides, the police people, the security, protection of concerning what is going on in Nigeria, meaning you are one of the safest individuals, even if your state is having Boko Haram all around it. This is what immunity does, not you embezzling funds. It's not immunity, it's still corruption that is stopping us from asking them questions while they are in office, because we let it happen and go. And these governors also feel like they will not be questioned because they feel, okay, I have a parley with the president. But on the papers last week, we saw where President Tinubu told him to go an answer to the EFCC. It was on the papers, but I mean, it was just on one of the papers, but we saw it where President Tinubu told him to go and answer. He should take his lawyers, get lawyers. That was exactly the statement from the president. Get your lawyers and go and answer to the EFCC. Now, Yahaya Bello cannot say that the EFCC did not send him an invitation first. It's impossible. Because, first of all, I want to believe that he is an intelligent person. Obviously, you can't become a governor without being an intelligent person. I, as a common man, know that today there are certain transactions that when I do, whether or not I see a letter and I'm supposed to be answerable, and there must be an invitation for me to answer. I am sitting down and my account is only used to seeing 10 naira, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. And all of a sudden, there's 10 million in my account. For example, financial institutions there is a body within it that will question, they will report, and I will be questioned concerning this transaction. So Yahaya Bello can't sit down and say he doesn't know that he's supposed to answer for the kind of transactions that he did. And the AFCC also have protocols, which I want to believe that they know their job. So they would and must have sent him an invitation, because they cannot move to arrest. First, arrest is not the first order of their of carrying out their operation. It's not the first. It's the latter. When you refuse to accept the first, then it's now you now become a fugitive, because you refuse to.
You now be tagged as a criminal.
Exactly, because why are you not showing up for your questioning? Is that simple? And then we can go on and talk about it, because when you look at the turnout of events, just as we keep saying, it's not immunity. It's also someone sleeping on their job. It's still corruption. Because when you see the channel of transaction, it didn't just start yesterday, was since 2016, ever since he stepped into office. And when you look at it, there were supposed to be questions since that period of time. And then finally, the AFCC boss is saying, you will answer for all of it. I was not the boss at that time. I didn't ask you questions. Well, there's a new chairman now, and I am out to doing my job to the fullest. Why are you afraid of arrest Yahaya Bello in the first place? You are just supposed to go and answer. If you did, you would have either been a free man or not. So don't stay in your hiding and be saying you're a free man. And Kogi State House Assembly can only speak on behalf, in support of their ex-governor. Of course, they can't say we are handing him over to the EFCC. But I am happy that in the end, and is the EFCC up against Yahaya Bello. I believe this kind of case that they would only say what they feel should be or how EFCC should act, but in the end, they will not influence what EFCC is going to do. This is a lot of money, Sele. We knew what we went through 2022 down to 2023 concerning flooding and Kogi roads, and seeing that this kind of money has been embezzled, you can only imagine the road it could have built and the problems that we face concerning flooding and transportation. So when you see this kind of money as a Nigerian, you are expected to say the EFCC needs to get back this money, because you can't sit down only and imagine what could have been done with this money, and yet it went into an individual pocket. It's ungodly on so many levels, and the reason why we are still where we are, because we are not seeing development. We can talk about the same thing for Heidi Sirika. The Nigerian Air Project got a lot of money, got in billions of naira, and nothing to show for it. Nothing, absolutely nothing to show for it. It had to be suspended, and not like funds were not put into it. Where is the funds, and why are we not having the Nigerian Air functioning as it is now? Our leaders and people in offices need to answer. I keep saying it, that yes, we might be backward, but if only people were doing their job consistently with the little that have been put into, we would not be where we are. We can talk about the aviation ministry as well. We can talk about every other ministry in the past. We can talk about our power. Money has been pumped in regardless, and there's nothing to show for the amount of money that has been put in the past. So a lot of people have questions to answer regarding money and funds in this country, and I'm just hoping and praying that the EFCC is out there for everybody, and in the end we get to recover this money, because it's still there. It's still there. It's in their account. I just hope that the EFCC gets to recover it. Yeah.
Very true, Richard. Because while you were talking, I mean, it might look as if we're taking side with somebody, but we are not. Just like I said, when you do good, we clap for you. When you don't, we actually have to talk down on you and make you know that, you know what, you actually did not do right, and you need to do right. I mean, let's not even talk about, let's talk about the Ajaokuta still. It's in Kogi, Rachel. It's in Kogi State. And then somebody said that Kogi State do not have that money for one individual to be able to embezzle this money that will have shake the state. Okay, let's say yes, they do not have, but just go and answer to the yes.
Exactly, go and answer.
I think that is just it. That's what everybody is saying. Well, we have a picture story on the front page of the paper where we can see the Minister of Power together with the Senate Committee on Power and then others during a stakeholders interactive dialogue and workshop in Abuja yesterday. You can do well to grab the paper. And then downside, we have a story here that says Lagos to inject 2,000 CNG buses before December. You can find detail of that on page 28, and that's all on Daily Sun newspaper. But before we continue, Rachel, you and I have said quite a lot. So we'd love to, go on a break so that we'll let you chew the stories. Also, drop your own comment, your own views on any of the story that is of interest to you. And when we come back, we'll continue with this discussion. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zuma Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper, the issue concerning the new charges on the former CBN governor. Also, we are seeing that the EFCC are going after the former aviation minister as well as the former governor of Kogi State. So we'd love to hear your own views concerning any of the story that is of interest to you. I still have Rachel in the studio. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
And I'm Stella Elisha. So we'll continue with the paper review, and Rachel will be taking us through the next paper.
On Vanguard, the big story, Dangote Refinery cuts diesel, jet A1 prices to 940 naira, 918 naira. And then we have an information showing diesel price as of February was 1,750 naira to a liter, and in March 1,200 to a liter, and then as at early April we were seeing it at 1,000 per liter, and now currently 940 naira to a liter. And then we have the writer saying price cut to impact nation's economy coming from Manufacturers Association, and then will reduce pressure on foreign exchange coming from CPPE. It's relief to transport operators coming from Albon. You can find all the details on page 19. CBN slashes BDC exchange rate to 1,036 naira to $1. Federal government appoints 17 new charge DFS. And then on a Kama Ewu, community declares 17 soldiers killed along Focados River. Say no, Kwama villager attacked soldiers, explains how overzealous soldiers jail wounded elders and leaders. You can find details on page 5. Will ensure Yahaya Bello faces trial no matter what it takes, coming from the EFCC chair. British International School shot over bullying of students. Murdered professor's last interview. Kidnappers, terrorists don't deserve mercy. You can find details on page 13. On page 31, there's a discourse, a Hindero, it's time for state police in Nigeria. Another one by Afe Babalola on page 22. And then sports, NFF board delays appointment of Super Eagles coach. You can find details on page 37. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On the leadership newspaper, EFCC quizzes ex-minister Sirika over the Nigerian air detail on page 7. Again, Dangote slashes diesel and aviation fuel prices to 940 and 980. Really have to applaud him. I can see that the prices of goods are also going down. I mean, a measure of sugar was over 3,000. But I was surprised yesterday that, I mean, the price has gone down, so we can see that we're beginning to experience little changes, and I'm happy. I mean, the common man will begin to be able to access certain goods and commodities in the market. Still on leadership newspaper, trending Chinese supermarket under fire for barring Nigerians, where we saw that it has been shut down because the owner of the supermarket stopped Nigerians from patronizing, and she's on the run presently. And on numbers, federal government set to launch 2,700 CNG buses and tricycles. You can find both story on page 2. CBN's fresh dollar sale to BDCs boosts Naira to 1,250 Naira to a dollar. You can find more detail of that on page 7. Bleeding economy, stakeholders want stiffer penalty for oil thieves, where we can see the menace of the oil thief, where we have 6,465 illegal refineries deactivated in 2 years, 4,876 illegal connections to pipelines removed in 2 years, and then NNPCL record 9,000 infractions on pipelines in 1 year. Expert allege community involvement in oil theft, and then stakeholders want a death penalty for economic sabotage. And then CSO planned global campaign against oil theft in Nigeria. You can find details of all of these on page 4. We can't go after others if Yahaya Bello is not persecuted, EFCC chairman is saying. Federal government established solar plants in 25 states, and then Dana Air says the NCAA identify courses and NSIB begins probe. And on the issue of state police, I did not speak for IGP, coming from the AIG Okolo, where we saw that the IGP and even some former presidents as well are saying they are not in support because Nigeria is not yet ripe for state policing. So you can read more detail of that story on page 17, and that's all on the leadership newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, the big story, EFCC exposes Bello, Real Sirika freezes 300 accounts. Says ex-Kogi governor took $720 from state account to pay child school fees. Begins probe of contract awards in presidency, National Assembly, judiciary, and others. Explains how banks lost 8 billion naira to electronic transfer in 2022. Nigeria losing $500 million annually to cybercrime. Stop harassing me, respect rule of law, Yahaya Bello tells EFCC. You can find details on page 4 and 5. NSIB begins probe into Dana Air incident. Amid protests, petitions, Ododo submits report of Ondo APC primary. NWC will ratify Ayedatiwa as candidate, Ganduje assures. Emeka Ihedioha dumps PDP. You can find details on page 8. Fubara reshuffles Rivers cabinet. Movement to be restricted for Oyo LG poll. You can find details on page 28. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On this day newspaper, federal government launches new fiscal incentive to revamp oil and gas sector. aims to attract $10 billion investment with the rider target long-term oil production and target of 4 million barrels per day, 12,000 barrels per day. Obuba field resumes production. Data found on page 10. CBN approved fourth tranche of FX sale to BDCs at 1,021 naira to a dollar. To cushion the effect of economic hardship, Dangote Refinery further reduced the diesel and aviation fuel prices. And we have the big story here coming from Olukoyede. He said the EFCC went above and beyond to give Yahya Bello fair hearing with the rider agency begins probe of contract awarding presidency, National Assembly and judiciary and others to arraign Sirika next week over alleged 8 billion naira fraud. Freeze over 300 bank account in moves to further save the naira, says Nigeria account for 50% of global cybercrime perpetrators. And we have a picture story here where we can see incentive for the oil and gas sector. You can do well to grab the paper, read more details of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Punch newspaper, AFCC may persecute 300 forex racketeers. AFCC gets order to freeze 300 accounts, says one account transacted $15 billion illegally. Naira would have crashed massively if 300 accounts were not frozen, coming from chairman. Air Nigeria Sirika goes on trial for 8 billion naira fraud. Dangote drops diesel to 940 naira, station sells 1,400 naira. CBN releases more dollars as naira weakens to 1,300 naira to a dollar at the official market. Abuja school shot victim may sue. This is concerning bullying. Yoruba Nation, Afenifere slams Akintoye Igboho. You can find details on page 7. Lutex students seek justice after cop allegedly kills copper. 50,000 schools listed for federal government safe school scheme. Details can be found on page 7, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, fraud allegation and money laundering. EFCC intensify manhunts for Bello, detains Sirika and freezes 300 accounts, where we can see the picture story of Yahya Bello and also the former aviation minister and also the suspended humanitarian affairs minister as well. Blackout crippled business activities in Taraba, Gombe, and Adamawa. You can find detail on page 30. CBN to sell $16 million to BDCs at 1,021 naira to a dollar amid fresh panic in the forex market. Also, we have less than 20% of Nigerians access 12 hours of power daily. This is the news you can find on page 3, and we hope that the Power Ministry is doing something to work on that. Ganduje Salmon Ayeda Tiwa and 15 Guba aspirant over Ondo APC primary outrage. NSIB NCCA probe Dana Air runway incident in Lagos State. Federal government probes bullying incident at the British International School Abuja. Detail found on page 8, and that's all on Guardian newspaper.
On the Daily Times, NIMET DG states challenges facing early warning system. The big story, electricity tariff, Speaker to sponsor bill for compulsory National Assembly stakeholders consultation. Minister Simmons lead British International School over bullying allegation. Troops neutralize cause of terrorists in Katsina and Zamfara. Soldiers on birthday spree accidentally kills villager in Plateau. You can find details on page 13. Such carelessness shouldn't be heard of. There is a scandal here. UNN ASU distances itself from lecturer seducing married student. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 2. Former Imo Governor Yodio Ha resigns from PDP. You can find details on page 6. And we have a picture story where we can see Ado Odo Ota local government chairman engineer Sheriff Musa on the left on an assessment visit to area where an electric pole that collapsed as a result of downpour in Sango Ota and its environs in Ogun State Sunday night. This happened, and this visit was on Tuesday, but the incident took place Sunday night. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper, airlines set to reduce fare as man sees inflation easing. Man CPPE NECA loan Dangote for cutting the diesel and jet A1 prices. Says domestic production holds key to national economy recovery, and then see impact on cost of production, job creation and pressure on forex data found on page 29. Afenifere disassociates self from call for Yoruba exit from Nigeria. Tinubu okay's 20% party 80 for traditional and religious institutions. You can find detail of that in the paper. Also, here we have the issue of the alleged 8 billion naira fraud. EFCC to arrest and grill ex-minister Sirika. Also, we have other story on electricity tariff. Reps Speaker Mull's bill for National Assembly stakeholders consultation before the hike. Also, we have a picture story here. You can draw out together Daily Independent and read any other story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian News Direct, the big story again, Dangote refinery crashes diesel aviation fuel prices. Lokpobiri Wabote disagree on utilization of over $500 million Nigerian content fund. Details can be found on page 10. Again, CBN sells FX to BDCs at 1,021 naira to $1. 25 years after local government get full financial autonomy. Heidi Sirika in AFCC custody over alleged 8 billion naira fraud. Retraction aircraft nose wheel results in Dana air crash. No casualty recorded. You can find details on page 22. Over 1 million passengers transported on Blue Line mass transit since inception. A report from Lagos Commissioner, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
Well, that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for
You're
doing
welcome,
this with
Cindy.
me. And also thank you to our viewers, thank you to our supporters for keeping a moment with us on the program. Until we come your way again tomorrow. Please do have a great day ahead.